This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Which VFL in the NFL had the best postseason game? We'll tell you next. Hey everybody, I'm Vince Ferrara. This is Next Level, a show focusing and highlighting VFLs in pro sports, in all sports. And we're going to focus on the National Football League today. We got a conversation with Jay Graham you don't want to miss that is coming up in just a couple of minutes. Hey, be sure to subscribe to the Sports Source Digital Network at Sports Source Digital Network, and you'll have all the shows, a lot of great shows, including this one, Next Level, that you'll get each week. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and comment, and give us your best performance among VFLs in the postseason. We're going to run through a top 5 here in just a second, and we'd love to see what you think is the best VFL performance in this year's playoff. So let's get started at number 5. Yes, Trey Smith headed to the Super Bowl to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, looking to three-peat. Trey Smith was better in that game against the Buffalo Bills, just gave up one pressure, no penalties, a little bit better in run blocking than pass blocking, but still got the job done as Trey Smith typically does. And, later in the year, his grades were not quite as strong late in the season. He played the 4th most snaps among guards in the NFL, over 1,200 snaps this year. But Trey Smith always finds a way to get it done, and he has been one of the best guards in the NFL, and he is at number 5. At number 4, but Byron Young. He's been terrorizing offenses for now 2 complete years, and he had a good game against the Eagles. It was in the snow, it was tough, and for the Rams, obviously losing that game 28-22. 2 tackles, 1 hurry for Byron Young in that game. So at number 3, his teammate Jaylen McCullough, undrafted free agent. Jaylen had a sack of Jalen Hurts in the game, had 2 tackles, limited in his defensive snaps, but played really well on special teams. Of course, the Rams lost that ball game as well. So at number 2, Jaylen McCullough, once again, boy, he was a force in the wild card round win where the Rams were all over the Minnesota Vikings. 6 tackles in the game, despite not starting in the ball game. That was good for 3rd on that Rams defense. Played a lot on special teams as well. And look, he's been the best rookie VFL, drafted or undrafted, among those Tennessee players. Really great story, Jaylen McCullough, and he showed out in the win over the Vikings. So at number 1, it's Byron Young back again. He was part of that vicious Rams defense that sacked Sam Darnold 9 times. So Byron Young, edge for the Rams, our Torchbearer from the University of Tennessee among VFLs in the NFL in this year's playoffs. So what did Byron Young do? He had 1.5 sacks in the game, 2 TFLs, 2 hurries, 4 tackles, and really set the tone right out of the gate because he had, on the first 2 plays for the Vikings on offense, had a tackle for loss and then a sack of Sam Darnold, and it was on. And the Vikings had no answers for the Rams the rest of the way. Hey, a couple of notes. There's all-star games going on right now with VFLs trying to make it to the NFL. And there's 3 in all-star games right now. East-West Shrine game practices with Dante Thornton. He's the only Vol that's there. 2 are at the Reese's Senior Bowl in Omar Norman Lott and Brew McCoy. Now, we're about a month away from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. That's where you'll see James Pearce Jr., Dylan Sampson, Cooper Mays, of course, health permitting, and then those guys in the All-Star games as well. So still, the process is on for the NFL draft, for the University of Tennessee players trying to add to that list that's in the league. So I caught up with VFL Jay Graham, one of the all-time greats, and we hit on a lot of different things. You're going to enjoy the conversation, but one of the things we touched on that you don't want to miss is he gives us his breakdown on what kind of NFL career Dylan Sampson and James Pearce Jr. will have. Here is my conversation with VFL great Jay Graham.
Special teams coordinator, tight ends coach at ETSU on the recruiting trail. Jay, thanks for the time. Appreciate you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just dealing with a little bit of weather out on the road, just looking for ball players, but doing well, Vince.
Man, I appreciate the time. So let's jump in. There's 37 VFLs in the National Football League, and you have such great insight because of your journey in the NFL and then coming from the University of Tennessee. For guys that had great success, that are in the league, had great success at the University of Tennessee, and now are battling to try to start or get a bigger role in the NFL. What's that like when everyone else in their respective position room is also on that journey and trying to break through on that highest level with that kind of competition?
I remember growing up and just the whole time you have this dream, even in college, you got this dream of playing in the NFL, and you get there and you realize that you're playing with professional football players. And the professional part is the key. I was at the same position with a guy that I watched play as a young man, as a 12-year-old, Ernest Byner, and he's playing beside me. And I'm like, man, and he's got kids that are grown up. And I'm like, this is a grown man sport. So understanding and learning what professional means, that's the way you prepare. That's the way you study. That's the way, because the NFL game is totally different in college because, in college, you're looking at a defense if I'm on offense, right? But I had to learn how to game plan players because they game plan you as a player. The linebackers are looking at everything you do, whether you have a tendency to cut left or right. So you had to learn how to be professional. And the thing for me was it was easier to get there than to stay. And there's a reason why NFL stands for not for long, because if you don't figure out the game and how to play it, how hard you got to play special teams, the way you relate with your teammates and how you make plays in the NFL, you won't stay long.
There are a number of guys in the NFL from the University of Tennessee that have dealt with injuries at different times that have maybe slowed them down in their trajectory. What is that like when you're in the league? The clock is ticking. You just mentioned it's not for long and you're not healthy. And meanwhile, guys may be passing you up, next draft picks, signees. What kind of pressure is that for any of these VFLs that are trying to break through that maybe have been dealing with nagging injuries?
The big thing is when you're hurt, it's like, are you hurt or are you injured? Mm-hmm. Injured, you're out. Hurt, things are going to hurt. I never felt as good as the first day I started in the NFL, started playing. From that point, and now I dealt with IR and being injured a lot, more than I wanted to. I was on IR 3 times in my first 4 years. Wow. That was tough. But learning how to be professional even then, learning how to get back on the field, stay healthy, is one of the hardest things to do. Learning how to play the game so you don't get hurt, a lot. You can't do kamikaze things, certain things in practice. The way they practice in the NFL is totally different in college. So that's a part of being professional. And when you're hurt, they're paying for you. They pay you a salary to play football. So that's the business side of things. So if you're hurt a lot, you may not make it there long. It just depends on who you are, how much money they have invested in you. And, that's where the business side is always something you got to keep in mind when you're playing football.
Yeah, and it's hurt a number of undrafted free agents as well. You're battling in camp, and then suddenly you're nicked up. You're like, this is my opportunity. I got an invite to camp, and now I'm hurt. And so how do you catch up? How do you show that, hey, somebody needs to stick with me or give me another chance somewhere else? Because, maybe there are numbers crunch with your team and you got to move on. Even for those undrafted free agents, that reality of what might be coming, that must be really difficult.
Yes. And I go back to saying this is professional.
Yeah. So
that piece we teach young men in college about take care of your body. That's the stuff that comes up when you go to the NFL. Mm-hmm. And, it's a long season. There's more games, trying to make sure you take care of yourself so that you don't have these injuries like a pulled hamstring, anything like that. You got to prep and prepare and get yourself ready to play your game, because, in the NFL, it's just like that. You have to get yourself prepared and warm up to go practice and play. So the guys who are professional, the guys who know how to take care of their bodies, the guys who know how to get to the game in order to perform are the best at it, and they stay the longest.
Jay, you've been a great coach, assistant coach, evaluator of talent. And there's the narrative that exists. To what degree it's factual or not, it's there, that this University of Tennessee offense and the players in it don't translate easily to the National Football League. You have a couple of receivers that are there from the Josh Heupel era, and Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. You have Hendon Hooker at quarterback with the Detroit Lions, and he got bumped to the number 3 spot when they brought in Teddy Bridgewater for any postseason backup duty. What do you think is reality in terms of a transition from guys in that Tennessee offense to the National Football League?
I think there's no basis for that. I think Heupel's offense is conceptual, which is the NFL offense, is formation-based. You can change formations, which is NFL-based. And he used, he runs NFL plays, from inside zone to trap plays for running backs to all the route tree that you have to run in order to play in the NFL. Scouts are looking at, can you run the route tree? Remember, in the NFL, they're going to run man a whole lot of times. The field is spread out, which lends itself to receivers who can run individual routes and beat man coverage. Mm-hmm. The routes that Heupel is running in his system, it does the same thing. So I never understand how people put so much basis on a certain system that keeps, college players from transitioning into the NFL. And I think the only way I would say that's not so is if it's not conceptual based. And I've seen the offense. It is concept-driven offense. So, if you're a receiver on the left side and you got a conceptual call, based on formation, it may not be the same route. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about when I mean conceptual. So I think they do that. They do that very well. So, like guys like Jalen Hyatt, they are going to that next level. And we forget that it's a lot that has to be learned about how to play the NFL game. But I don't think the routes and the concepts is the issue.
Okay, interesting. We'll see how it works out for those guys. Certainly when Deshaun Watson wasn't throwing wasn't the quarterback for the Browns, suddenly Cedric Tillman came to life. Right. So funny how that works too. So then it wasn't the Tennessee offense, right? At that point.
But you bring that up. You look at the Browns. They got a revolving door of quarterbacks. Yeah. I remember when I played, I had a revolving door of quarterbacks. When I was standing beside Benny Testaverde, things were going well. Then it kind of changed a little bit, right? And then we had a revolving door of quarterbacks, which is different, which is different. And it kind of hurts the development of the receivers and everybody else because you don't have a guy, getting you the ball. Or setting the offense the way or rolling the offense the way it should run. So, those things are important, especially in the NFL. That's why they put so much money into quarterbacks, because they want the quarterback of the future, the next guy. You think of if, Cedric had Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, I'm sure he'd get hit in the chest a whole lot and get a whole lot of yards and touchdowns. So.
Well, a great Vinny Testaverde drop, man. My paisan. I forgot you had played with him. Man, you know what Testaverde means in Italian, Jay?
No.
Green head. Testaverde. Green head. Vincenzo.
But I thought it meant touchdown because he was dropping dimes. When he left, I had tears around. I was like, where's he going? He was so good to me. He was a good guy.
He wasn't doing that as much when he was in my hometown Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, and they were trying to run him out of town. But he was a veteran quarterback with you guys, and had gotten better as the years went on.
True.
So, all right, let's talk about the guys in the draft for this year. James Pearce Jr. expected to go in the first round of the NFL draft in April. Tell me what you think about his potential for the NFL.
Well, it all starts with pass rush. He got every move in this repertoire. But the biggest thing he has is speed. Edge, speed, rusher. Because when you're in the league, they're going to look at every move. Those tackles going to study every move, but there's no answer to speed. You got to kick out there and get him blocked, which is very difficult. I think his game is going to transition more because the percentage of passes going out. I think right now he's playing 4 down, putting his hand in the dirt. I don't think that's his strength. So in NFL, the strength is pass rush. They're going to pay him to pass rush. They're not going to pay him to be an every down guy, even though he's going to play the majority downs. But they're going to also teach him how to, drop in the zone, do a couple things. I think there's a lot of teams. He's not going to play for the Steelers. I don't think he's going to play for Mike Tomlin because I don't think he fits that system. But there are certain systems that are multiple, that can run 3 down situations where you can move him around and he can wreak havoc on pass rushers. It's about getting the quarterback on the ground because it's a quarterback-driven league.
Will he be like Byron Young with the Rams? Will he be better, worse, or different, do you think?
I think he's better. His speed, his edge, it's not just speed, because I think we sometimes use that term. It's acceleration. Mm-hmm. I mean, when the ball snaps, his first 3 steps are amazing. It's on a different level. And if you can really hone that and put it anywhere you put that speed and his ability actually to go from speed to power is the thing that I see that's going to be hard on them big old offensive tackles, because they just going to want to get their hands on them. And it's going to be very difficult to do that without getting out of balance. So, I think him being I wouldn't call him a DPR, because I think he is physical in the run game. Mm-hmm. I just think he's not going to be able. His toughest thing, because the SEC is probably the closest thing to the NFL, was, hold a point in the run game over and over again and take on offensive linemen. That's not his deal, I don't think. Now, he may grow into that over time, but, honestly, that pass rush ability, they're going to pay a lot for that.
All right, you're one of the all-time greats at the University of Tennessee, toting the rock for the power tee on Rocky Top. Give me your breakdown of Dylan Sampson for the National Football League, what they're going to like and what they might kind of hold against them, if at all, during this pre-draft process.
Well, his ability to run the ball in the SEC is big. What he's had, the success he's had, the things he's done has been big. I think some of the things people may ask is, okay, I have not seen you run the ball in the eye or pistol. With his speed, being behind a quarterback, I think it's going to be an advantage for him, because the biggest run that's running in the NFL is probably the stretch play, and next is gap plays, which Tennessee offense, they run gap plays. They don't run a lot of outside zone, but they run a lot of gap plays, which he is really good at. I think the thing he's going to excel at, and the thing that NFL coaches love, is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He can catch the ball outside wide. He can run all the running back routes in the route tree. He has excellent ball skills, and he can run away from guys. So he's a mismatch in the box, versus linebackers. He was able to improve his pass protection, which is very important, because you got to be able to protect if you're going to be out there and be a third down back. So I see a lot of good things. You look at the running back class, it's just him to me. And as far as backs who have pass game ability and also pass catching ability, also run ability, I think it's him and Travion Henderson. Those are the 2 guys that I say, these guys are real, true, third down ability and ability to be a mismatch in the pass game. Ashton Genty's out there, sure. Everybody's going to be after him, but I think the new age back is not just, line up in the eye, we're going to feed it to you 35 times. That's good. That's going away.
Yards after contact, probably not a bad skill to have too, right?
No doubt. And look at that right there with Dylan. I mean, he's been phenomenal with breaking tackles and yards after contact.
Yeah, as good as it gets in the country in that area this year. So, what do you think about draft range? Second day? Is that because, look, the running back position, is kind of devalued for the league, even though they keep showing how important they are in terms of drafting them. They still wait on them, especially if there's depth. What do you think about a draft range for Dylan Sampson?
The NFL is weird because they'll drive the price down. if they can. They're trying to find ways to drive you from 5th round to 6th round. They're looking for that. So, they can love you and they tell you they love you to death, but they're looking for ways to make you cheaper, than you are. So they always do that. If they can get a great running back in the 6th round, right, they'll take him in the 6th round instead of the 5th. So, I don't think he'll be 5th or 6th round. I think you got to look at who's leaving the league, the running backs that are, and who's looking for running backs. I think that's going to be important as far as what style of play they're looking for. But I think he's in that 4th round, 3rd round range. Can he bump up to 1st round? I don't think a running back will get picked in the 1st round, and it'll probably be someone like Genty,
right?
If that's the case, or I think he's real close. Him and Travion Henderson are battling, and I think he's one of the top 4 or 5 backs. So if you look at the history of that puts you somewhere in the 3rd round, the 4th round,
right?
As far as how the rate. Now, back in the day, in my day, there was 5 running backs picked in the 1st round. So that shows you that. So it's changed over the years.
Hey, last thing, really appreciate your insight. Anything on those VFLs that are in the league right now that you want to share, whether it was Jaylen Wright's rookie year that didn't work out? Like, man, there were plenty of people that thought, hey, that might be the offensive rookie of the year, even though he had 2 stud running backs in front of him with the Dolphins. They thought he would make a big impact. It didn't play out. The team wasn't as good. Or Juwan Jennings, he was our number 1. He was a torchbearer among VFLs in the league in the regular season this year with career highs across the board. Anything jump out about any of those VFLs you saw this year in the league?
Yes. The thing with Juwan Jennings, phenomenal year.
Yeah.
What he had 70-something receptions. He's a young man that's battled, played with physicality. Brock Purdy loves him, just as a play. The team does. He's been a team player. He's worked his way up, stayed healthy, and he's been out there playing. So now he had a great year at the right time, and I think that's key. You look at a guy like Darnell Wright. Darnell's had 32 starts. I just think back on him as a young man. He's had 32 starts in the NFL at tackle. That is a rock of consistency that they're looking for on a team that's had a whole bunch of things happen, there with the Bears. But he is a guy that's been, has cemented himself as a everyday, starter, every week starter, and been there. So that's another guy that's standing out to me. But as the Jaylen Wright, I look at his season, and you look at the end of the season, he started really to come on. And I think back to my years. I know it was a long time ago, but when you were running the ball early in the season, the holes look different because the players are faster. They can do more things. I remember looking at those D tackles saying they were like, it's in the A gap. I'm like, both of these D tackles are 360 pounds. I can't see around these guys, and understanding a different way of reading plays and running plays. But I saw him, even though he had 249 yards or, somewhere around there. You look later in the season, he was having big runs at the end of the year. He's averaging 8 yards in some games. So he's starting to get back to being comfortable and being able to use that ability. So I thought it was a good first year, getting 68 carries and being able to average. People go, well, you need to average 7 yards a carry. Well, show me how many guys in the NFL doing that. It's not a lot. So he averaged 3.7, which is not terrible. We'd like for that to be closer to 4.8 to 6 yards a carry,
right,
which I think he'll get to. But I think you look at it, the amount of carries, he's able to stay healthy, for the most part, and learn how to be a better, be more professional, and he'll be a better player next year. So those are the things that I'm looking at as far as guys who are out there. But it's some good ones, and our guys had a good year. So. I don't know if there's anyone else I can think of. Oh, who's my guy with the Rams?
Well, yeah, not only Byron Young, but Jaylen McCullough, undrafted free agent,
right,
had as good as any rookie in among the VFLs this year, for sure.
So that was a surprise, even though we didn't think it was. McCullough's been a really good football player, and he was able to transition and play with that physicality. And when you have success as a rookie like that, those contract years are better for a guy that may have, if he was undrafted, those things are coming up year by year. But for some of these guys like Trey Smith, I forgot to mention him. His contract year is coming up. He's got 3 Super Bowl rings, or possibly 3 Super Bowl rings.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe, right? But you look across the offensive line, and they put a lot of money in the offensive line. They got both bookie and tackles making a lot of money. The center is making a lot of money. So cap space is going to be a big thing for him. But I think they'll just tender him because he's still restricted as a free agent. So he'll probably get tendered and get a lot of money here, on a 1-year basis. And then they'll kind of go back and look at, kind of what they're going to do as far as his long-term contract, which is hard to do when you got 3 linemen making long-term big-time deals.
Well, Jay, always a pleasure to spend time with you and visit with you. You're an awesome partner and an analyst for high school football for the couple of years we're together. Thank you so much for doing it. Appreciate you spending some time with us when you're coming off of the recruiting show looking for players and sharing some insights with us here on Next Level.
Well, I appreciate it, Vince, as always, man. Let's get together soon and go through this again, man. Would love to.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Good luck to you. That is VFL great Jay Graham, one of the all-time best at the University of Tennessee. Next week, we will break down the all-time performances in the Super Bowl